More Than a Horse, brought to you by WOODLANDSSTUD in conjunction with Northern Rivers Equine, is proud to sponsor More Than a Horse. This year, standing lather up at Northern Rivers Equine here in the Goulburn Valley. Absolutely wrapped, beautiful day. Catching up with Dave Moran, trainer of Lochinvar Art, one of the pin-up horses of harness racing, just in a minute. Firstly, Dave, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, no, it's good, Paul, thank you.
He's a great little horse. He's a great little story. I did one on Wobbly. He also, I think he has missed weighing in once, I believe, in about 35 to 37 starts. Off the top of my head, 37 starts, I think.
Yeah, that'd be right. Yeah, I think the Breeders' Crown final, he ran 5th. That was about the worst he's ever placed.
How did you come to get this horse? Like, I mean, you didn't breed him, and when I looked up his breeding, he's nothing specially bred. I mean, he's out of a Ponder mare. It's an interesting breeding mix, actually, because there is some lovely performed horses, but just not a lot of them in that whole family. Yeah,
no, exactly. He's a modern art, which a lot of people who aren't sort of too wrapped in. They're not a sought after horse that everyone wants to go looking for, and like you said, out of a Ponder mare, so he wasn't all that ideally bred, but we were lucky enough to pick him up at the Ready to Run sale in Sydney.
Oh, so you bought him from a Ready to Run sale. I was wondering how it all come about.
Yeah, it's a bit of a funny story, actually. They had a Ready to Run. It was the last Ready to Run sale, probably 3 years ago now, 4 years ago, whatever it was, and we had no, my partner at the time and me went up there for the weekend just to get away. We used the sales for a bit of an excuse and said we're going to go and have a look at a colt. And I was talking to Ricky Alchin, he prepared him. Talking to Ricky and his brother Jared and Alex, and I said, if we sort of come across a cheapie, we'd maybe consider it, sort of thing, but we haven't really got any money ourselves and haven't got any owners. And Jared actually said to me, Ricky's got a modern art colt there that he's no star, but he said he just sort of keeps getting better and better, and he's he's a good going horse and that sort of thing. So I went and had a look at him, and yeah, he was a really good type. And then we watched him work, and he run up good times, which probably had me a bit worried, because I always said, I'll never ever buy one that runs the quickest time of the day. But then when I went back, we were having a couple of beers afterwards, and they have about an hour gap, and you watch the replays, and then they have the auction. I watched the replay, and I think he brushed up in about 26.5 or something ridiculous. But if you watch the replay, it looked like he was running a quarter in about 32, and that sort of done it for me. So anyway, we waited for him to go round, and I just imagined it'd be like the APG sale where you got 30 days to pay for him or whatever. So I went and seen Ricky, and I said, what do you think he's worth? He said, well, he was passed in at the Bathurst sale for 12,000. He said, I think he'll make that, but he ran up good today, so he might make 14, but that'd be top, sort of thing. I said, okay. So if he makes sort of 12 or 14, I might buy him. He said, yeah, he won't make any more. So by this stage, I'd had a fair few tinnies, and I was starting to get a little bit cheeky, and so he come into the ring, and we let him go for a while, and he got to about 10,000 pretty quick, and then he stalled, and then there was a fella, Colin McDowell, over in the corner, and I'm sure he probably kicks himself every time I tell this story, but I went 12, Colin went 13, we went so forth, and I said to Alex, I said, who's the bloke bidding against me? And he said, that's Colin McDowell. He said, don't panic. He said, he'll go to 30,000. He said, any horse he likes, he has a rule that he'll go to 30,000. I said, well, we'll soon see. So,
hang on, you were going for 14, 15, you
14,
thought?
Yeah, and I'd had a couple of beers and got a bit more cheeky and had no money and no owners or anything. So, anyway, so we kept bidding, and he went 28, so I went 29, knowing that, from what I'm told, that he'll go 30. So I thought, well, if he goes 30, I won't buy him anyway. So could say I got a little bit cheeky running him up, maybe. So I went 29, and he never bid again. So the hammer got knocked down, and I was in a bit of a dilemma, and I copped a bit of an ear bashing, and so I went in to speak to him about terms and how long a term I can get, and they said no, he has to be paid for today. I thought, Jesus, a bit of trouble here. So I rang Kevin Gordon and I said, mate, I just went to the Ready to Run sale in Menangle. I said, and I've just bought the best horse you'll ever have. And he said, what do you mean? How do you know that? And I said, I've just bought you your next star. Anyway, I probably with a bit of tongue in cheek trying to get someone to buy the horse, and then Kevin said, yeah, no dramas whatsoever. If if that's what you want to do, I'll back your judgment. So he said no dramas whatsoever, and he got on the phone and paid for him that day, and the rest was history pretty much. He rocked back up here probably a week later, and we had a little bit of trouble getting him to pace and that early. But yeah, the rest is history. He's just gone from strength to strength, and he's got better and better.
Had you trained horses with Kevin before that?
Yeah, our first horse we had for Kevin was a horse called Smo, which done a really good job. I think we ended up winning about 8 or 9 races with him. He was a beautiful little horse, and then we bought Lochinvar Delight from the sales. That was the first horse we bought with Kevin. We bought another one, Lochinvar Hugo, the next year, and then this bloke.
So, when all the dust settled, and I'm presuming the next day, when you get him home, and you're sort of thinking, what have I done, or were you happy with what you'd done?
I was a bit concerned. I was a bit concerned that I paid $29,000 for a modern art out of a Ponder mare. It only had one foal before that, and at that stage it hadn't really done anything. So I was pretty concerned. Yeah. He's
a pretty maligned horse, isn't he? Modern art, in a way, because a lot of people don't speak highly of him. But if you actually look at his stat, like Restrepo, I'm sure was a modern art. There's been a couple of them that, if he leaves a good horse, they're good horses.
Yeah, they are.
I know that sounds silly, but he can leave a really nice, high quality horse.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's like every stein. Majority of them throw one along the way somewhere, even if they haven't worked out to be that good. They generally throw one somewhere along the line, and he's thrown a few. I think Young Modern, when Michael Stanley had him, he was a modern art, and there's been a few ultimate art, and, there's been a few of them. So he's done not a bad job really when you probably go through the stats.
No, I might be wrong on Restrepo. It might have been young modern. You're right. I can be wrong quite regularly. If I'm smart, I'll cut that out, but I possibly won't. So you get him home, or I presume you got him home. Actually, I want to back you up a little bit. You actually said it was just an excuse to have a weekend away, but you ended up buying him. Is that one of the pressures of a young trainer, I suppose, that if there is the opportunity to get a nice horse, you have to sort of sometimes leap at it? Is that sometimes how it feels? Yeah,
it was a tricky one. Like I said, at the start, we were going pretty hard at the time and trying to make a go of things here, and we were a bit burnt out, and I didn't realise the Ready to Run sale was coming up, sort of thing, and I just said, bugger it, we'll go away for the weekend, and anyone asks, we'll go and have a look at a horse. I said we won't be coming home with one because we've got no money and got no owners. But as it turned out, it was just, I don't know. I've had a little bit of luck going to the sales and sort of just looking at horses and not really planning on a lot. And if you see one you like, sometimes, as in this case, worked out. It was the best thing I ever did.
Your owner as well, he's a little bit unique because he's very well high up in the greyhound world, isn't he? He's predominantly a greyhound man that's backed you, obviously, to the hilts. Yeah,
he's a great bloke. Kevin and his wife Leonie, they've got 4 daughters. They live up in Newcastle, and he originally had harness horses years ago with Vic Frost. That was how he got into the game there, and then he had a couple of horses with J.E. and Darren Binskin. And then he sort of got out for a while, and then he got into the greyhounds, which he's very high up in the greyhounds now. He's very high up on the board in the greyhounds even now also, I think. But I think he's one of the biggest greyhound breeders in New South Wales. And he's also got an engineering company, Multicam Routers. So they've got, I think, about 4 factories: Melbourne, Sydney, Newcastle, Brisbane. They do They supply all the machines for the mines, all the routing machines for the mines, and different companies like Quintrex and all them sort of mobs. And I think they're the only people that can service them as well. So they've got a very big business there. And I think the horses are a bit like a hobby for him, really. They're something that he's always loved and had an interest in, and he gets great thrill out of them racing, whether it's Lochinvar or one of the other ones. He gets a lot of thrill, but it's just, I'm very humbled to be able to just have the opportunity to go to the sales, and if I like one, just to be able to purchase it. He doesn't question anything. He doesn't try and take over. He doesn't question money or whatsoever. We try not to spend a stupid amount, because sometimes I don't see the point in it. But he never questions anything. He never says a word, and it makes your job a hell of a lot easier if you can just go about it. And I guess after all that, you've got to just back your own judgment, and so far it's worked out.
What's his stable name?
Artie.
Artie.
Yeah. That
simple. Was that just purely because of the modern art part?
I think so, yeah.
It just come out about that.
Yeah.
Did you tell Kevin the story about how you ended up at 29 before he won a race or after he won a race?
Well, I don't know if I've told him the full story 110% just yet. I didn't. I certainly wasn't going to tell him after he won the first race. I let it go for a while. So yeah, I probably should sit down over a beer with him one day and explain the exact story.
Well, he's about to listen to it firsthand, so he'll be right. So you get him home from the sales, and I imagine you brought him back here to Shep. Was there always something about him, or was he one of those horses that from time to time you're thinking, oh, what have I done?
Yeah, he was actually a bit of a nightmare. When we first got him home, at the start, the Leighton Breeders' Plate was coming up. It wasn't far away, and because he was up and going so early, I said we might target something like that and try and get part of his money back in case he ends up, not that good sort of thing. And we brought him home, and I'll never forget the first day I put the hobbles on him, and I rang Ricky and got the same measurements and everything. And I think because he'd been on Menangle, working around Menangle for so long on the big track, he couldn't get around the track here for the life. We couldn't get him to pace. He'd jump out of his gear 2 or 3 times in the run, and that probably went on for a fortnight. And then we worked him with another horse one day.
Did that get you nervous?
Yeah, it got me real nervous actually. I was real nervous. I think there one day we had a pair of spreaders on him, and it was a few testing times early. I think one day the sort of turning point there, we had a horse, Scotland Jack. He was about a C7 at the time, and we took him over the main track and worked him. And anyway, he jumped out of his gear sort of down the back for a couple of strides and got back going again, and he got a little smack, and it must have woke him up a bit, because he just worked like a machine that day, and he never missed a beat for probably 2 or 3 weeks from then on in. And so every time he sort of done it, you just sort of chased him through it, and he just got better and better and better and better. And then we were able to slowly let his hobbles out a bit and take the guiders and that off him. And he's just been a bit of a testing fella the first probably 2 months, but after that he's been as good as gold.
Were you worried about? Or did you think about gelding him potentially, like a little bit colty by the sounds of it? Yeah,
he wasn't really colty. He was really good around the place and that sort of thing. And to be honest, like after having a couple of these ones, 2-year-olds this year and that we gelded, I always said that, I'll always geld him. But I think because he was so quiet in himself, we left him for so long, and then he did what he did as a 2-year-old, and then he looked like he was going to be pretty good as a 3-year-old. I was really too scared to do anything. So it's always been in the back of my mind if I was to geld him and something went wrong. So that's partly the only reason I would never have gelded him.
It's just, it's probably one of the lucky things in a way, and not like, we're just looking at him here in the yard, and every time I cross to him, he's just standing there looking for a bit of food. He seems like he's got a great attitude. Was he like that all the time, even when he was a 2-year-old, or was he a stress head, or just always had his nice attitude?
No, he's always been cool. Yeah, he's a pretty cool dude. He's sort of, he's always been pretty quiet. Like, he goes out in the paddock now. Every couple of days he goes out with a gelding now, and if he's over the fence to him, he'll squeal and carry on, but as soon as he's in the paddock with one, he's quiet as a lamb. Apart from that, he's good. He gets a little bit squealy here and there, but it's good when he's squealy, he's on song. So No, he's pretty easy.
He definitely seems a pretty laid back horse. I was watching him on the walker there a bit earlier, and you can actually see he's having a bit of fun. But for a colt, he seems like he's got the nice attitude. They say that colts develop, they're I suppose get a bit quieter and a little bit more in their own nature as they get older. As a young horse, was he like that, or did he go through stages where he tested you all the time?
No, he's always been pretty good. Yeah, he has always been pretty good. Every now and then he'll test you to a degree, but he's pretty good. Like you sort of get a bit cranky with him or whatnot. He sort of turns the corner pretty quick. He straightens out. He's a perfect horse, really. He's beautiful to do anything with, and he's kind. So yeah.
I was talking to Clayton Tonkin. That's the idea I came up with. He's more than a horse, and I must say well done to Woodlands for supporting me and sponsoring me with the idea. And I think getting to know intricacies of these horses, like Clayton was saying with Ride High, that he has his own sort of mannerisms, and there's certain people he doesn't like. How does Artie go? Like, is he pretty cool with anyone, or do you have to watch him from time to time?
Yeah, he's pretty cool with most people. It gets a bit funny. Like Lane, the young bloke, he hates him for some reason. I'm not sure what it is, whether he stirs him up or what the story is. But so you've got to be a little bit careful around there. He's sort of not nasty, but he pins his ears back a little bit, sort of thing, and you know what it's like. That doesn't take much for him to snap, really. But apart from that, he's pretty good. Yeah, he's pretty easy going, sort of thing. Casey sort of talks to him a little bit, that sort of thing. When his feet up time, he knows, and he sort of gets neighing out, and yeah, he's pretty cool, really, with most people.
So you start racing him, and I think he won his second start. I think he got beat his first start at Bendigo, and then they weren't bad fields actually. I was quickly flicking through them. I can't remember the horse that beat you in that, but there were some lovely 2-year-olds around that time, and he didn't go bang bang bang. Did you sort of realise though that you might have had something a little bit more special, and was he showing signs that eventually it would come? Yeah,
he's still, like I said, now, he always takes that run or two to get going, and he was like that as a 2-year-old. Like he's, I think we gave him 3 or 4 trials. He galloped in one trial, and he was a bit green, and then he won his last trial before he went to Bendigo, and then Bendigo, I thought he went really good. He sat parked for the last 1100 and run third. I think Better and Better won it. It was going really good at the time.
Yep.
Then he went to Cobram and won there, and won really well, and he actually tried to run out the gate after the line there, nearly went through the outside fence, so he still was doing a few little things wrong.
He's lucky he saw a colt, didn't
he? Yeah, like I said, if he was a bit of a pain in the bum around the place and he was squealing and whatnot, they would have been out for sure, but it was just that it wasn't sort of anything to do with that. It was just more in his head. And then I think he went to, third up. He had the heats of the Breeders' Challenge coming up, and they announced that they were going to run the heats at Wagga.
Yep.
And I said, it's no way in the world he could get around the track at Wagga. So I said there was a 2-year-old race coming up the week before, so I said I'm going to take him to Wagga and just give him a look at the track, give him a quiet run. He can do whatever he's got to do going into next week. I didn't want to give him a gut buster, so I was talking to a bloke on the way up, and it was a horse called Where You Been Bopping. He was having his first start in the race, and they were declaring it. And I said, well, he'll probably win tonight, because I said I'm just going to sit in the middle of the track and just see how he gets around. So I think we were 3 wide from about the 1400 metre mark on the old Wagga track. 3 wide every step of the way, and we run second to Where You've Been Bopping. And I'll never forget, he got around the track as good as gold, and we went back the following week, and we're walking onto the track, and Stevie Maguire said to me, he said he was a bit disappointing last week, that horse. He said, I thought he was going to be a nice horse. I said, he'll be a lot better tonight, Stevie. So Hard Hitter led, Major Roll sat outside him, and I come 3 wide at about the 400, and then 4 and 5 wide around the turn, and you still speak to people nowadays, where he come from to win on that track was just unbelievable. And then he went on, I think he went to Menangle, he won his semi-final, and then he pretty sure he run second to Hard Hitter.
Yep.
Never got out in the final, yeah.
Is he the sort of horse, like you said, you took him to Wagga, and I think it's a great insight into a trainer, like, is he that sort of horse that like you said, he took a couple of trials. He learns what to do. Like it's not necessarily naturally instinctive of him to do it. You have to teach him what to do. Is he that sort of a horse?
Yeah, to a degree. Yeah, he just like I said before, he's testing. He just does little things. Like he'll still do little things now, even that like he goes around this track out here for the last 3 years, sort of thing, and he'll still do little things that you just think, my God, mate, you've done this 1,000 times now. It's probably time to get over it. But that's just him. He just tests you out. I'm sure he'll do something tonight in the warm-up. He just does little things, he either shy at things, or he'll try and sink the boots in for the first lap, or he just does things when it catches you off guard a bit. Just
to make sure you're on your toes. Well, that's the idea of these more than a horse. That's what I wanted to try and bring to life, what these horses are, and they are life-changing, and I'm sure this bloke has been a massive life changer for you. You're only a young trainer. You've had a fair change in your life just recently, and a horse like this that comes into your stable, it must be just sensational. But the flip side of that is, I suppose, there's also the pressure that you've got to perform all the time.
Yeah, no, you're definitely right about it being life-changing. It's it's amazing. My life, like you said, over the last 6 months, there's been a few changes and whatnot, and this horse is sort of like your friend. He's always been there, and he's always pulled you out of a hole, and it's hard sometimes as a trainer of a horse like him. Like you said, the pressure mounts up and little things like that, and sometimes it'd be nice to give him a quiet run, or to not sort of have to slaughter him to a degree, sort of thing. You sort of always feel for the horse a little bit, and I think that's probably sometimes why it's hard driving them yourself sometimes, because if you train them and drive them, you do tend to care for the horse a little bit, sometimes too much, and then all of a sudden you're in a bit of trouble. But he's been good. He's been life-changing to me, and he's turned everything around practically.
Was there a time, like you talked to, I've done a podcast with Darryl Douglas recently, and he spoke about a horse that all of a sudden he realised some of these horses can carry your mistakes, if you like. Was there a time when perhaps he carried one of your mistakes and you've thought to yourself, wow? Yeah,
there has been a couple of times. It's been a couple of times where you've made the wrong move, or you made the right move, or whatever you've done, but he just tends to amaze you every time he goes out when you do make a wrong move, or you do put yourself in a position where you think it's probably not possible for him to pull it off. He just does. He just doesn't matter what you do. The Miracle Mile was a prime example, sort of thing. When I first went 3 wide down the back, and I thought, I don't know why I just done this, I'm not going to get to the breeze, but you just feel him push so hard. He got there, and then he fought off the challengers to hold on for a second. He just does them sort of things that just, you come off the track in disbelief sometimes.
Yeah, I was going to get on the Miracle Mile a bit later on, but while you're on it, the one thing about that run, and go back, I'll put it on here, actually, I'll bring it up on here, because it's an enormous second in itself. He should have run fourth. Those other 2 horses had him cold with about 100 to go, and you weren't punishing him.
No.
I think you were sort of saying, well, we've done our bit and all the rest. But his last 2 strides right on the line, people say horses know where the winning post is to win, but he knows where it is just to even run second. Like, he's such a competitive beast, isn't he?
Yeah, you're not wrong there. Yeah, he's will to win. Like I said, he's a perfect horse. He's got the speed, the stamina, but I think his biggest attribute is his will to win. Like, if I've got a photo inside, and if you look at the photo right near the line, and you can just see his ears pinned right back against his neck, and to do what he did, and then to still have the will to win in the fight, to pin his ears back when there's still a horse in front of him, just to hold off the second and the third and fourth horse. It's amazing, really. Like, you get a lot of good horses, and you get a lot of horses with high speed, and they generally have a fault somewhere along the line. Touchwood, so far, he's just got no faults at all. He just tries his little guts out.
By the sounds of it, his only one fault is he just seems to, I suppose, have fun. He just seems to be that little bit of a lad.
Yeah, no, he is. I think they've probably all got something about them. Them, good horses generally always have something little about them, or there's a little story behind them. But that's about his. Yeah, he's just a bit of a cheeky bugger sometimes.
Chariots of Fire or a second in a Miracle Mile? Like, I mean, it's a nice resume. Which one meant the most? I've seen photos of the Chariots, and I know it meant a lot to you winning that. But Miracle Mile is, I mean, for mine, there's only one other race you'd want to win more, and that's the Inter Dominion, I think. So
yeah, it's a funny one now. Like with the Miracle Mile this year was worth $1 million, so it was to be in the race was not only a privilege, but the thought of possibly winning it would not only be life changing, but to even run second, it was a great thrill as a trainer and a driver. But the Chariots was like a big relief sort of thing. The Bonanza was probably the biggest relief I've ever had in harness racing. It was probably nearly my biggest thrill. Like you said, it had been a tough few months, and then there was a bit of talk, of how good he'd actually come back. There was a bit of talk that the Cobram Cup field that he beat wasn't all that strong, and then he done a couple of things wrong in the Shep Cup. So the pressure leading into the Bonanza was huge for me. There was so much boom on Self Assured, and he beat him twice in Queensland. That night was probably one of my best nights in harness racing. That was just like a monkey off the back, that one. And then that saved him having to go to Sydney early for the heat. So then he went and he won the Chariots, which was an automatic invite into the Miracle Mile. So it was just a perfect month. He didn't have to go up early, didn't have to have extra racing. He won the right ones, and he was straight in. So it was just a perfect month.
Can you explain the pressure? I mean, everyone understands pressure to certain degrees, but you talk about the pressure leading up to the Bonanza, and I'm sure a lot of people would think, well, you'd be more nervous before the Chariots and more nervous before the Miracle Mile. But by the sounds of things, you're sort of happy at where you got to. Is that from outward or is it inward? Because you are a professional. I do another video thing called Stable Chat, and we'll definitely be doing one here in the summer months because it's immaculate, this place, and how you presented it. Was that pressure driven by yourself, or was it pressure driven by the external media and the lack of expectations, I suppose?
Yeah, it was probably a lot of pressure on. I probably put a fair bit of pressure on myself. Like I said, I'd sort of spent a lot of money around here, and we'd bought this place, and then I'd separated with my partner, and so I sort of wanted to get things done and wanted to get them finalised, and so I had pressure financially in that way, and then I also had the pressure of the horse performing. I guess, there'd been talk about, like I said, there'd been talk about the Cobram Cup field being a very ordinary field. He beat nothing, and then Shep Cup, he went rough after the start and ended up about 4 or 5 fence and never ever got out, sort of thing. And so there was a bit of pressure there, even though I knew how good the horse was going himself. I think Cobram, he was first up. He only had one quiet trial. He's first up over the 2600, and he done it so easy. And I knew myself how good he was and how good he was going at the time. So there was pressure going into the Bonanza, whether, for me, whether Self Assured would sit outside him, like they all said, whether he would sit outside him and beat him, and would there be talk that he's not quite as good as what we think. But that was probably the biggest thrill, because we went into that race, and I remember saying to Jason Bonington on air, I got a little bit cheeky, and I said, he come and got me to have an interview, and we're walking back to go on air, and I said to him, he said, how good is he? He said, how is he? And I said, he's good, he's real good. He said, can he win? I said, well, they'll have to smash the track record to beat him tonight, because I said, I'm going to make it mathematically impossible. I said, but I may get myself beat at the same time. And touch wood, he come out and broke the track record and won the race.
Is that one of the moments when you, like I said before, when you find out that he can carry you? Like, I mean, you didn't make a mistake, because everything you said, you backed it up in a way. But to have, Artie underneath you, and he can, you can make the calls and say to him basically when the race is on, say, right mate, let's do this, and
Yep.
and let's is that one of those sort of moments where you say, well done buddy? And
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was really. It was just one of them nights. He used to wear a little lip cord because he was getting a bit keen there in a few races, and I remember warming up and I had the cord on him, and I thought, well, if I'm gonna back my own judgment, I need to take this cord off. So I went to the start and I took the cord off, and I thought, well, I won't hold him, so we might as well just try and do what we said, and we'll try and break the track record and make it mathematically impossible for the other one to beat us. And yeah, like you said, it was one of them things where yes, it paid off now, and it looks good, but it was.
I had that on camera too. If that had gone inside the mouth, it could have been
interesting. It was one of them things where, like you said, I just had to put all my trust in him and just hope that he could do it. At the end of the day, I thought he could, and in the end he did. But at the time, it was a big call to be 3 wide for as long as he was, work to the front, and then get striding even quicker again. It was going to be one of them make or break moments.
Can you describe for people at home the feelings you have for this horse? Like, I mean, I can tell. I think a lot of people can tell listening to him. But I don't think any harness trainer, they're not just another horse like people sort of perceive them to be. But can you describe the relationship the pair of you have?
Yeah, well, I think, like you said, the easiest way to describe him for me is he's life changing. What you said before, that's practically him. He's just life changing. But yeah, it's a good relationship. He, like I said, he can be very testing. So at times it can be we can get a little bit hostile with each other. But apart from that, no, it's good. Like at the end of the day, you sort of sit there sometimes and you have good and bad days, and you look at him and you think he's turned everything around for me. So yeah, I just treat him like one of my kids. Really, I'll love him forever, and he'll always have a home.
The problem is you can't put Lane in with him because they don't get along.
No, exactly. He's got the measure of Lane.
There's a lot said about a match race, and you're not going to answer my question. I'm not going to ask you about the question of whether or not you're going to go in it or there's going to be a match race, because I want this to sort of stand the test of time. But there's a lot of talk about Artie in the radio, in the press, social media, if it's going to happen, if it isn't going to happen. Pressure, and I would imagine joy that you've got a horse in your stable that, not Shepparton are talking about, and not Country Victoria are talking about, Australia, and even overseas it's generated interest. Did you ever think, we all dream of having a horse like that, but did you ever actually think you might be able to get a horse like him?
No, not really. No, I guess no, I never thought I'd have one. I never thought I'd get to train or drive one as good as him. You get a lot of nice horses, through the years and whatnot, and I've been lucky enough to have a few nice ones and a few nice young horses and that sort of thing. And you don't sort of, until you get a horse like him or them sort of horses, you don't acknowledge it enough. You don't sort of sit back and enjoy it enough. So yeah, I'll probably never get one as good as him ever again. But while I've got him, I'll do my best to look after him and enjoy the time. And it comes and goes so quick, so I want to try and make it just so that it's enjoyable and you can live life to the fullest to a degree. I don't want to work a heap of numbers and try and find the next one. I'd rather just enjoy the time with him, and if it never comes again, well, I'll be forever grateful for what he's done for me.
Travel, something like a New Zealand Cup, I think he'd have the right makeup for I don't know, does he go away from the stand?
Yeah, something like the New Zealand Cup would be really good, I reckon. Something, somewhere I've never been. I'd love to take him to America one day if the right time come and if he was still sound, and ideally now would be the perfect time, but we can't do that at the minute, and there's plenty of races here for him. So New Zealand would probably be my main target. I think it'd be great to have a go at.
He's only a baby though. I know in America he's not necessarily, because they like him as 4 and 5 year olds. I mean, he's just about to turn 5. I'm right there, aren't I? He's just about to turn 5. So the lure of travelling, post COVID, hopefully, be pretty exciting. I'm sure the Americans watch a lot of our Australian horses now on the back of a horse like Lazarus and what he was able to do. So something like that, that's great that it is on the radar. I've only done another one of these, where they're more than a horse, and that was Wobbly. And Alison and Chris would also like to travel. It is something about the romance of harness racing. Like it's not just being able to raise them as foals and race them and train and drive them like we do, but this lure of travelling and being able to compete on the world stage, it's enticing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, no, it is. I was lucky enough to it's been to Bathurst and Sydney and then Queensland last year, and Queensland was great. It was same thing again, like we took all the kids and same thing we said before. If it wasn't for this horse, we would never have gone. Our kids haven't travelled far, and we were able to go up there for 2 weeks, and we stayed. We actually stayed at Redcliffe and stayed in a beautiful little spot there. It's right on the beach, and that was good. But the plan was to go to Queensland again this year, and then possibly go to Perth in November, December. But that's all been put on the back burner now with COVID, and which is a bit of a shame. But we've just got to try and look after him now and keep him sound, and like you said, maybe have the possibility of travelling him to New Zealand, and wherefore after that.
Absolutely. This has been More Than a Horse, brought to you by Woodland Stud in conjunction with Northern Rivers Equine. They proudly sponsor More Than a Horse. They are standing lather up in conjunction this year at Northern Rivers Equine in Kyabram. Dave Marine, thank you so much, mate.
And they're off. Done well from the outside with Jimmy Freight in American History. This is the plan is put in play with a lather up on the inside and Always a Prince. And they're 6 wide around the first turn. Always a Prince cuts the corner with sharp speed. Lather up on the outside is coming at him. He had a 2-hole there. This is the plan. Dives in. It's going to be a torrid opening fraction here. Done well 4th now. The Downtown Bus got away in 5th. On the outside, Jimmy Freight is looking to go up 6th, followed by Backstreet Shadow. And then at the back, we have Courtly Choice and Think Big, Dream Big, and American History. 25-3. How about that? It's Always a Prince in front. Always a Prince by 2 is on the engine here with Sears, trying to get a breather. Lather up in the 2nd spot. This is the plan is 3rd. Underway now, Jimmy Freight on the outside, stride for stride with Dunwell on the rail. And then it's the Downtown Bus on the outside. American History shoots again, followed by Backstreet Shadow, and then it's Think Big, Dream Big, and Courtly Choice. Half a dazzling 52 seconds. Always a Prince pulling out all the stops here in front by a length and a quarter. A dreamy 2-hole ride for Lather Up and Montrell Teague as they head to 3/4. On the inside, this is the plan now, is wedged in with Jimmy Freight stride for stride and looking for room. Done well on the inside, 5th, and they turn for home. 3/4, 1:19.1 into the stretch. Always a Prince looking to take them all the way, but it's Lather Up on the outside. Lather Up, the perfect trip, trying to pay off. Montrell Teague going to work. Lather Up on the inside. Always a Prince can't go with him. And then this is the plan. It is Lather Up, a perfect trip paid off in the graduate final, and Lather Up is home in 1:46, equaling the all-time fastest mile